Thursday, October 31st,
October
day 2 of the occupation.
We just spent the night here.
And we look at the floors were very comfortable.
Particularly me, that's why I'm behind the camera.
And we're
I'm glad we're putting this down on record. This is the only way in which we can try to ensure that this center remains open.
I actually became a client about 20 years ago. I don't know anything specific about the root of women's health and women's hands, but I do know that it is one of a kind.
What I heard was that there were riots and like huge social justice uproar. It started with I want to say a group of 5 women who came together for a collective cause.
The elders told us that the struggle that they went through, how there was a sit-in and how they had to fight to have a place like this.
It's also a long road to a peaceful resolution in a battle over a Metro Women's Health Center. Staff and board members are both fighting for control. We get the details tonight from our health specialist, Judy Halliday.
Out with the board! Bring back the staff! Out with the board! Bring back the staff!
The issue is that the board has always had an opposing view as to how the center was going to develop. The staff's view was that it had to be very community-based, as the proposal states, and the board has always backtracked from that kind of focus.
In order to resolve the differences in approach, the board hired outside consultants. Their report, which has yet to be shown to staff or the users of the center, recommended the termination of the executive director and the transferring of the 3 community health workers to other centers. When staff and the community protested, they were locked out.
This is the strangest form of conflict resolution I have ever seen.
It's amazing. What I really remember so vividly is the level of support, especially women in the community who already, even though the center hadn't opened officially, because of the outreach work that had been done, really saw it as a space and a place that could be theirs. Well, I was the first person hired as the executive director. I think I was pretty clear about my perspective, which probably differed a little from the board's. When the board was funded, they said part of the agreement was that the board would do outreach, would become more the word that we use now, sort of intersectional.
It isn't simply asking what do people think and then going off and putting a service together. It's really having the community and the women who will use the center direct the programs according to their needs.
The 3 health promotion coordinators who came on board were WHIWH, Joan Grant Cummings, and Carol Ann Wright.
The role was to go, throughout Metro Toronto and consult, women from one end to the other to see what those health issues actually were.
So we went out and we started talking to women in all these various communities.
Women were saying, we want holistic health services, we want, female doctors, we'd like to have nurse practitioners, we want services that look at all women's needs, not just certain women.
We were getting all that information and saying, you know what, we need to have a really, really clearly organized, comprehensive strategy for reaching women, not just on a particular issue that they present with, but for teasing out everything else that is actually gotten them to that. Because what they are presenting with is just really like the needle that broke the camel's back.
One of the huge gaps in the city was health provisions, access for immigrant women, Black women particularly. So that was one of the things that I think began to raise questions for the board.
I remember coming back with a report, and the board at that particular time mainly white middle-class women, didn't seem to be as enthused as I thought. We were excited. We thought, wow, we've got all this information and here's just what women are saying.
That report was bringing the voice of the women to the board. And they had a real difficult time with that report. Some of them, especially particularly, there were some who were okay with it, who understood it, who knew what we were talking about, or at least had an idea what we were talking about. But some of them really were like, really, could this be true? Like, really, how do you know?
The question came up about who had been hired. How was it possible to reach out to a wide community when the 3 health promotion coordinators were Black women? So that was a flag.
And then we got a call from one of the board members saying, we don't need another immigrant women's health center, there's already one there. This is not quite what we're looking for, kind of thing. So we're kind of confused about that.
The fact is the board, some of the board members and the consultants have also been working here. Yes. The consultants have been acting as
Yes, I think this is a really important point that we want to make, that the consultants have more or less taken over.
Can I ask a question? Do they reflect the multicultural population?
No. Have you seen the consultants?
No, I haven't. Are they all white?
Yeah.
Yes.
You should see
I think
them.
that should be duly noted.
Yeah.
Let's not be afraid of the racism over here.
No. Yeah.
The racism, it was coded, as it often is, but to my mind and the 3 women who are Black and have dealt with racism all of their lives, it was, so our competence, our capacity, so Black women can only work with and reach out and connect with other Black women. All of those questions were just there.
It was clear right from the get-go, because they had even made comments in board meetings. I remember this one woman saying, we hired 3 Black women. How did we do that? This is not an immigrant center. And when somebody said to her, that's a racist statement, she says, I'm not racist. I can't be racist. My boyfriend is Chinese. And I thought, oh my God, she went there.
The issues that the board had put to them when they were hiring, the issues of race, class, power imbalances, board development, etc., they didn't want to deal with. I mean, they interviewed us. That's the only input we had in that process, interviews. They didn't want to deal with these issues. They didn't think that they had anything to do with the current situation yet. In the terms of reference set out for them, those were the main underlying issues that they were supposed to be dealing with.
I will never forget this term, because it was the first time I heard it. We got letters saying that, thank you for your report, but we're going to put services in abeyance until we can figure out what to do with, with all this information. Services in abeyance. So I remember thinking to somebody, I'm like, now I'm not stupid, but I think we're fired. I think we're being dismissed.
And they wanted to put health promotion in abeyance because the staff had gone ahead of the board. They had the work that the staff had done had exceeded the amount of work that a fledgling organization could deal with, in their words.
Right away we felt, yeah, it's about our jobs, but we have just consulted over how many women. This is an insult to their integrity and their voice being shut down by a group of women who has not gone out and met them. Maybe they should have been involved in the consultations as well. But that for us was a major insult in terms of the work that was done and the lack of respect for the women's voices in that whole process.
I think that it's important to note that the community is very upset, not just the community that the health center affects, but women of color, immigrant women, non-profit groups,
autonomous social agencies.
Yes, and autonomous social are very upset about this.
We're all watching this.
Yes, because this is going to affect our future.
And it was like, okay, we've talked to these women, so we can mobilize these women as well. We've got a really good, grounding for mobilizing, and that's what we did.
The women decided to take back the center. The consultants and board chair Suzanne Gruelis were inside.
You need to get out, Suzanne! Get out! Get out!
Do you want to make a comment now that they're
how can I? I mean, this is very inappropriate. I can't say anything right now. We're meeting with the staff this afternoon, and until we've met with the staff, it isn't appropriate that I say anything.
Your actions are inappropriate!
Why don't they want to sit down dialogue with someone like me who used the center? A mother, why?
if I'm going to be using the center, then I should participate. I'm an intelligent person.
The staff refused to meet with the board until the center is reopened, and the consultant's report is presented to everyone concerned so it can be discussed, and recommendations for a future course of action be voted upon. On DuPont Street, I'm Judy Halliday for City Pulse.
And we have just learned the women are occupying the health center and are vowing to stay there until they get the keys to the building. We'll have details for you on City Pulse tonight at 10.
I wasn't expecting to stay. I had to call get childcare for my children. Said to my friend, yeah, I'm going to be here for a minute.
Day 3.
We're all awake and having tea and they're trying to cope with the simplest technology. The simple things, like food.
I'm just checking over the situation. Straight face.
I'm a prime example of how we stand behind our women in the cars.
Hey, yeah, all right.
I got to sleep by myself and stand behind a woman in the cars.
We were not doing the sit-in to make it about us. We knew that it was way beyond us, that if they succeeded in getting rid of the 3 black women, they were going to sabotage the health of every other woman of color in this city.
The only thing I have to say is that I have waited a long time to find a place that's for me, that's going to look after the needs that I have. It took me a long time to even start admitting I need to look after my own needs. And I'm here to support the cause because I need it.
We have our support group here tonight. And this is part of our solidarity to come into a place that's locked us out in the first place. To show that if they make the rules and we're not part of those rules, then they're really making fences, as Pat Rozelle would say, not gates. And so we have to recreate the rules that will allow us in rather than keep us out.
We were in there, I think, about a week. It felt longer just because we were kind of back and forth with the Department of Health.
Ministry, intervene now! Ministry, intervene now!
And their position was, as all government says, which are risk averse, you leave, we'll negotiate. We're like, yeah, no, we're not falling for that.
I have been in regular touch with both the board members and the staff members. And we agreed yesterday that yes, we were going to appoint a mediator, and I've communicated that message this morning.
Who's going to speak to that and, you know, make sure that the women have the keys to get back into the building before the mediation process can take place? That has to be done.
And that's one of the issues that will be put before, that the mediators will be dealing with.
But there are issues that need to be dealt with before mediation takes place. That's what I'm saying. We need to have some guarantees from the ministry in terms of the center will be open, it will be accessible to the staff, and you know the keys will be handed over.
It was a real major community event. I mean, it was absolutely, you know, incredible.
I like the fact that I could be at the beginning and all the rah, 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 and then there's this beautiful emerged creation, like out of all of that energy, right? To me, that was amazing.
Well, I feel like the center lives up to the vision that we saw at the time. Like it would be a vibrant hub, a place that's inclusive of all women's life experiences, that women could come here and get a variety of their needs met here.
I'm happy to have been a part of the beginnings of this center. I'm happy to have been part of those of us who knew what we needed to fight for our own people. And I am so happy where the center is at right now.
Really important to understand that there's a critical path in terms of how black folks and women and people who are marginalized get heard. Because we don't have the luxury sometimes of just standing up being heard and somebody saying, okay, I'm just going to write you a check. That's not how that happens. We just have to fight, make our point, and hold our ground.
There's a depth of gratitude that I feel literally every day when I walk through these doors. And I've had the privilege of working with the founders. I've had the privilege of working with all executive directors prior to myself. And the foundation that they laid and the legacy that they've left for us is one that I think every staff person in this organization carries with them. Like, we understand the legacy that we have to uphold and move forward. So everything that we do, we want to do with integrity, and that every client that comes in here should walk out of here better than when they arrived.
I'm so grateful to you and thankful to you for being so warm, affectionate, and so friendly with me.
Women's health in women's hands. If you can imagine, you know, someone giving you a huge hug, that is exactly what women's health was for me.
It's an absolute blessing to be able to serve. And I think that's what I've learned from the founders. It's the level of service that we owe to our communities.